Hi, welcome back to the Weekly Why. This week we have a double parsha. We have Tazria-Metzorah, and this is probably, if you're reading it on its own, probably one of the driest parshas. It's very technical. When I say dry, I mean in a sense of superficial. I mean it's very, very detailed, very complex, very legalistic. It's constantly talking about offerings and rituals and so on and so forth. It's not a narrative like Joseph in Egypt or the Exodus from Egypt or anything like that. It's a lot more complex and a lot harder to understand. And one of the key themes of not just this double parsha, but the entire book of Leviticus, Vayikra, which we're reading, is about purity. It's about purity and impurity. And I think that when we're talking about this, we tend to look at it from a perspective of good and bad. And I think that purity and impurity, impurity is not a bad thing per se. It may be a necessary thing. So in Judaism we have Tahara de Mishpacha, the laws of family purity. And, basically for half a month a woman is in a state of ritual impurity. It's not dirty, it's not bad, it's not evil, it's simply impure. So, for example, we have in Vayikra, in Leviticus, which Tazria, the parsha we're reading, and it talks about when a woman gives birth. And she is tameh for 1 week. In other words, she's impure for 1 week if it's a boy. And if she gives birth to a girl, it's 2 weeks. And of course, you may have our modern sensitivities. You'd say, oh, it's politically incorrect. It's sexism and so on and so forth. And I think that we have to really avoid the very easy temptation to simply assume that it is the case. And especially if we can look back into older commentaries and we see explanations which dispute this. Because, if the only explanations we see disputing this are 2010, 2012, we could say, well, this is just, these are just easy answers explaining it away. But, Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch, who lived, about 150 years ago, so this is not, again, this is far removed from the time when he was absolutely required to, say something that was nice and politically correct. And what he says the reason is basically is that when a woman gives birth, she has created a certain void in her womb, in the sense that she's simply expelled, with all the afterbirth and all of this. She's kind of eliminated that there's a certain blood and loss of potential for life and all of that. And the reason it's twice as long for a girl as with a boy is because with a girl, the girl herself has a potential for birth. So it's kind of almost like a double whammy in that sense. So just as a one idea, in the sense it's not evil, it's not bad. In many ways, it's a blessing to give birth to because you have a girl who then herself has the potential to live future generations and to bear future generations of Jewish children and so on. So it's not a dirty or bad or evil thing. It's simply impurity. Now, on the subject of impurity on not a positive sense, we have tsaras. We have this skin leprosy, this spiritual leprosy can impact the skin, can impact your clothing, house, and things like that. And it's interesting, of course, today we do not have tsaras. If you speak lashon hara, you speak gossip or evil tongue about someone else, you don't suddenly take on leprosy. And the question is why. And so, on the same token, about how sometimes impurity is not necessarily a bad thing, there are many Torah scholars and many commentators say that one of the reasons we don't have tsaras today is because we're not holy enough. We're not holy enough to merit tsaras. Now, that sounds arse backwards, right? It sounds, how is it that a lack of holiness, not righteous enough, do not merit having this disease, this punishment? And the whole idea with that, again, is that even this impurity itself is a message. It's a certain clarity that you have, in the sense that you imagine every time you did something wrong, that you had a real flash of insight that you knew ultimately, instinctively, intuitively was not right. It's an amazing gift, an unbelievable thing. And that's, again, the kind of the world that we lack today. And again, we're talking about essentially how everything that sometimes can be seen bad or evil or impure can be the opposite. And certainly today, as we celebrate Yom HaAtzmaut, or for those who celebrate, and the whole idea, of course, is that the state of Israel came on the heels of the ashes of the Holocaust. And I think that the takeaway lesson for us in all of this is to say there's a good and there's a bad. But ultimately, our role, our responsibility in life as Jews is to take every possible thing that is evil, that is bad, that is not as good, and we can't see the light in, even if it's impure, and to try to transfer it into light and goodness as much as possible. And so this is the whole reason, for example, that we have, the Spirit of Homer, we have 49 days. Because the whole idea is when the Jews were in Egypt, they were on the 49th lowest level, and when the Jews reached Mount Sinai, they were on the 49th highest level. Well, hold on, but that's 98 steps, right? It's 49 minus 49 to 0, and then 0 to plus 49. It's 98. So why do we only have 49 days? The whole idea is that each one of these days, over the 49-day period, we're supposed to transform the bad into good, not simply nullify the bad and then turn it into good separate. We totally transform it. So impurity is not evil, it becomes good, right? Terrible things do not simply become nullified, they become great things. The Holocaust became something that spurred on the Jewish people to take responsibility for themselves and build a homeland. And again, this is a blessing and the hope for all of us today in this Shabbat, as we come away with a certain clarity that basically that every single day of the Omer and every single day of our lives, not just an opportunity to not do evil, not do bad, avoid impurities and bad, but to simply transform it into something Kedusha, holiness, and clarity. Thank you very much. Best wishes. Shabbat Shalom. God bless.